Hello, hello, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Black Mental Health Matters. Today, in honor of Black Maternal Mental Health Week, we have two very special guests today that are going to give us insight, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding in regards to the mental health of our Black people in terms of maternity. Okay, keep it locked. All right. As stated, I want to say thank you again for tuning in. I have two very special guests with me this morning who are going to talk to us about maternal mental health as a whole as it relates to Black women. I have the wonderful Deshara Peck and the wonderful Goldmine. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you just really quickly go ahead and introduce yourselves? My name is Rose Gold. I am a guest host this morning. Deshara, why don't you go ahead and start? Tell us your name, where you currently live, and what you do for a living.
Well, good morning. My name is Deshara, and I live in Minnesota, here in the United States, and I am currently a clinic manager at a behavioral health clinic.
Perfect. Thank you. Goldmine, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead and tell us your name, what it is you do, and where you are based out of. I do see that you're muted there, love.
Okay,
Perfect.
can you hear me?
I can hear you great, beautiful. Thank you for joining us.
Divine Rising, ladies.
Thank
Good
you.
I am
morning.
in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a soulpreneur. So I'm an entrepreneur, but I do whatever my soul calls to me. And right now it is holistic living and everything that has to do with it.
Perfect. Excellent. And so, as you guys can see who are watching, why I wanted the perspective of these two women, because they are coming from similar approaches in different ways to the same things, which is like Miss Goldmine just said, in terms of feeding their soul and giving back to our communities in different types of ways. So I'm honored truly for you ladies to be here. The topic: maternal mental health. In the United States, Black women are 3 to 5 times more likely to die from preventable maternal complications. Okay, and that's just in the United States alone. When we talk about as a whole entire world, that number actually jumps up to 6 to 7 times more, right? As we get into this conversation and as we are talking about maternal mental health, we usually just hear these conversations based around postpartum. Today, we're going to talk about the mental journey of the maternal mind as a whole, as you step into motherhood, kind of those different phases, and then how you can maybe help others or give others some tips in their journey. Okay. So, first of all, let's set the context again. Tell me, how many children do you currently have, boy or girl, and how long have you been a mother? Deshara, you want to start?
So, I do have a 7-year-old daughter, and so, we've been figuring it out a little bit for about 7 years. Yep.
Perfect. Go mine.
I have an 8-year-old daughter,
Perfect.
and that's my rollie. We do everything together.
Absolutely. And so you guys have kind of the similar experience where you both have girl children, while they're completely different probably personality. There's some similarities there, I'm sure, in terms of raising a girl child, right? A Black girl child at that. When you were, and feel comfortable to share as much as you want to share in regards to this, when you found out you were pregnant with your child, and I mean, if you can think back to 7 or 8 years ago, when you found out you were pregnant, what was the first thing that came to your mind in terms of coping, how you were going to deal with this. What was your first thoughts when you found out you were pregnant? And Goldman, we'll start with you this time. I want to keep picking on the sheriff.
My first thoughts was I was overwhelmed. I guess I want to say I was in shock.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I felt a confliction in my emotions at the time. Like I was happy, but I was kind of scared, and I was just like, oh my God. Even though I knew that, I was having sex, I had my partner, we were in love, like I still felt in shock. Like I didn't like, wow, I'm pregnant. It's me. So
Exactly. No, exactly. And I feel like I love that you say that because, like I kind of said in the beginning, a lot of times we talk about maternal mental health. It's usually like postpartum or like, the after effects. But like that kind of mental shift starts in the beginning. You know what I mean? From the moment you find out you're pregnant, going on. Deshara, how about you? When you found out you were pregnant, what was going on mentally in that moment for you or the moments after?
So I was 21 when I had found out that I was pregnant with my daughter. And to be honest, it literally was nothing but fear. It
Mm,
literally was like one of the scariest moments of my life because you're looking at a positive pregnancy test, And like my mind immediately went to like, oh my gosh, I have to tell her dad. I have to tell my parents. I have to tell, and then keep in mind, like kind of having a child too at kind of like your peak age. You're like, you're
mm-hmm.
supposed to have this great, live through your 20s and be amazing. Like the thought of like I knew I was gonna be a mom. I had made up my mind automatically, like I'm having a baby. But then to think that you have to mourn kind of the time that you're gonna lose. So like
Mm,
the thought that went through my head was like, you're 21, like you just started drinking, girl. You trying to have fun and live this life, and then it's like in that moment it's like you go through all these emotions of like your life is about to change forever and you have to like make a decision.
right.
So it was mostly fear, and it stemmed into like a depression. For real, it was
Yeah.
hard for me in the beginning.
Yeah. And to share just to kind of piggyback off of what you just said, because that leads perfectly into my next question. You had mentioned just now how the different emotions that you go through when you find out that you're pregnant and you make a decision, but you also mentioned a mental mourning piece um, that I don't think is talked about enough in the beginning of pregnancies, right? Um, you guys were both over the age of 18 when you got pregnant. Is that correct as well for you, Goldmine?
yeah.
So, you guys didn't really you weren't in high school pregnant. Those that are watching, whatever, not knocking that, but you guys were adults. But there still was this as you said, this mourning period where there's a mental shift where you have to, I don't want to say get into mommy mode, but at least make a decision that that's where you want to go. Tell me, ladies, about and Deshira, I'll just start with you as we kind of piggyback off your question. Tell me about that mental decision that you're going to be a mother and how that showed up in your doctor's appointments during your early pregnancy.
So the cool part about it is the midwife that was, working with me through my whole pregnancy, like from the time that I found out, and then, I had to start scheduling my appointments to make sure everything was good. Like and she was actually a woman of color, which
Okay.
was amazing, especially being up here in the Midwest.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of people in the medical field that look like us. And
Facts.
so automatically seeing her, I felt like a sense of comfort, that
Mhm.
like I could just be so honest and that she was going to understand me, hear me. And that's exactly what it was. Like she turned into a therapist.
Mhm.
She
Okay.
was so like, and she came to my delivery. Like she went
Nice.
home and decided to get in her car to come back and watch me have my baby. And that was like that, having that relationship and having somebody that you can trust while,
Yeah.
while you're, growing your child, it was very important in a safe space, which I needed at the time with so many emotions kind of all over the place.
Absolutely. Goldmine, how about you? After that mental shift, you say, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna decide to be a mom. I'm gonna move forward with this baby. Did you notice any mental shifts during or anything that you can remember as at your early pregnancy, as you begin going to the doctor's offices? What was that like for you mentally?
Mentally, it was still, for me, I still was kind of like in this shock. Like I knew everything was happening, but I feel like I was like trapped in my head. Just still over analyzing everything, just still like, oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
I felt I had some support, but I really felt alone.
Mm,
So to hear you say that you had somebody like that was, I mean, I feel it. I feel it as you say it. I could imagine that being so comforting. Um,
yeah.
I had my parents, but it's the person that her father, my child's father,
Yeah.
I was really in a depression from him already,
Sure.
So I was going through so many things in my head at the point when I was going to the doctor's appointments um and everything. I was already starting to get into a depression.
Sure. And I'm glad that you say that. Not glad about the depression part. I'm glad that you out of that space, Queen. But you bring up a really good point that kind of leads into to the next thing I want to talk to you ladies about. That I don't think is mentioned enough. What hmm, I think I'm going to say how does your relationship or lack thereof with the father of your child affect you mentally while you're pregnant? What does that do to a mother, or what levels, however you want to answer this question? How does the relationship with the person you're at, whether you're together or not, how does that relationship specifically affect a mother mentally? Deshara, go ahead and start for us.
I think so. With at the time, me and my daughter's father weren't in a relationship.
Mhm.
So I think um, with us not being a relationship, I absolutely do believe that there are similar feelings, but the fear of like, what if, right?
Mm,
When you have a child, you want to make sure that you have a foundation, you have
right.
structure, and you have, and when, like you had mentioned before, you have felt alone, even though your baby daddy was with you in the process. I understand that 100% because it's like, what mother or what father or what family doesn't want to have a family unit? You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? When you bring a child
Everybody.
into this world, there's like an expectation of you want to have a father or two parents,
Two
partners
parents.
to be
Exactly.
available, to be able to pour into your child. And when in the beginning of your pregnancy, when you're so worried about a relationship with the person and add a baby on top of that, not
Mm,
knowing if you're gonna this person is a long-term person,
right.
if this, and then if also if you guys are unhealed and going through all these toxic cycles, it adds so much pressure
Mm,
onto the mom, because you're sitting here thinking like, am I gonna have to do this alone? Like, I don't want to fight with this person. You stressing about a relationship, and again, your body's supposed to be whole and good for your baby, right? But all that stress and that baggage from your relationship or like
yeah.
your situation, it just makes it 10 times harder to even be in the right mind frame of, let me get ready for my child.
Gotcha. Thank you so
I,
much, Share. Goldmine, talk to me. What about
I
you? How does that relationship with the father affect a mom mentally as she's going through that maternal process of carrying a child?
I think it's a direct effect. um
Yeah.
it was a direct effect on me. It
Mm.
already gave me a feeling of defeat, like you were saying.
Mm.
Just
Wow.
um when I'm picturing what the ideal societal view of what a family and a mother and a should look like, and then I'm comparing it to my own experience with my
Mm.
parents, to my friends' experience with their parent or lack of parents or a divorce, and all these things are running through my mind.
Right.
And then there's boom, the big image of, you know, what type of mother do I actually want to be? How is this
Mm.
gonna look? I'm I'm so much of an analyzer. Like I like to get mentally prepared for stuff. So it's like
Yeah.
if I can't see it, it's scary.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
stepping into that unknown. And I wasn't ready for that at the time. So I don't feel like you can. Yeah, I wasn't ready for it. I
Yeah.
wasn't ready for it.
Absolutely. And I love the honesty here. I love how you guys are sharing your story unapologetically and being true to it. Um, so we're kind of in the phase now where we're talking about as you're carrying, as you're getting ready to have the baby. That's kind of the phase we're in now. As we talk to the audience about the maternal mental health. Do you remember instances in the doctor's office during your pregnancy where you felt like maybe you weren't being heard by your provider? If you had that experience, what did you do? If you did not have that experience, what would be something you would do if you were in that situation? Deshara?
Okay, so I actually, when it came for me to actually have my daughter, I'm in labor, you know, I didn't have preeclampsia, but I was like preeclamptic, like where they were
Sure.
like, there's a possibility of like problems happening.
Yeah.
I got rushed to the emergency room and they're like, okay, your blood pressure is way too high, and I felt so weird in my body.
Mm.
It's like such a weird feeling to describe, but like it felt like something wasn't right, right?
Mm.
And my blood pressure was so high, they were like, you know what, we're going to send you home. We're going to put you on bed rest. You're not, you're done. Keep in mind, I'm at like 39 weeks at this point. So I'm
Right.
considered full term, but
Yeah.
um, they had me get dressed and had to consult with the doctors and calling everybody. And they came back in the room, was like, well, you're actually going to have the baby now. We're going to induce you now. So we're going to move you over to the next room. You're going to have the baby now. And so they bring me
Wow.
in there and everything's just moving fast. I had my daughter, she's here. But I remember afterwards, um, everybody's coming in the room. And I remember my blood pressure was so, like, I literally remember laying and having an out of body experience where everybody was going blurry in the room. Everybody.
Mhm.
Like, I
Wow.
literally, my heart was racing. I literally felt like, I actually said like a silent prayer, like, Lord, am I leaving? Like something was not right. So like I'm pressing the nurse button and they rushing in and they're like, everybody has to get out. Everybody has to get out. And they realized that my blood pressure was so high that I was at risk for a stroke. And so they literally were like, let me take the baby and all you do is get like rest. We're going to cut off the lights, turn the TV off and just rest. But in my mind, there was no like test run. There's
Yeah.
nothing, I'm like, there could be blood clots. I don't know, but they
Yeah.
were just like, rest. But in that moment, I'm like, well, what happens if something were to happen? Like, nobody checked. They literally checked my blood pressure, said it was too high. But it's like, we're supposed to trust medical professionals, right? Regardless of what I was feeling in my body. If you have a nurse or a doctor telling you something, I'm not no medical provider. I don't
Exactly.
know,
Yeah.
so it's like, I'm going to take the advice from the people that give it. So it was rough kind of in that moment after having my daughter. Like, I really did have an experience where I thought that I might possibly pass away. It was weird.
Wow. Go mine.
Sorry. I'm sorry
I'm
to
so
hear
sorry. Yeah.
that. That's terrible. I'm just immediately back in the hospital bed, just like imagining going through the things that you're saying. Because coincidentally, I went through some of the beginning parts of what you said, as far as they're saying maybe preeclampsia and my blood pressure going up and maybe trying to get me to have a C-section. And it's like, I already had some prejudgments in my mind before I came there about it,
Yeah.
because I have my own things with hospitals and being a
Yeah.
healthcare professional and nursing assistant all this time, and just a servicer of people, and having compassion. And
Yeah.
so my experience with that was, I just told them no. Like,
Yeah.
no, we're gonna try. Give me some lavender, give me some, I don't know, we're gonna try these different things.
Yeah.
And like you said, I had to advocate for myself. I had to tell my sister that was there, like, hey,
Yeah.
if I'm too weak, or they try to say I'm out of it, I want you to advocate for me, make sure
Mhm.
you watching and looking, don't take my baby out the room, the whole nine,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
um unfortunately they did for me.
Yeah.
My blood pressure did go down. I'm a
Good.
mover, so I got on that ball. I
Good.
was moving around, I was
Mhm.
smelling
Good.
oils,
Good.
I was doing what I know to do.
Right.
So after that, after my baby was born, she was born fine, vaginally. And the part that got me was they kept taking, first of all, the nurse that I had, she just seemed very, I don't know what the word is. She came in very curt. already. She was already like,
tell me more about that. Like, what was her demeanor like?
I think she I think she judged me because I
Mm,
was young or looked at young or whatever she was reading in my chart.
got you.
So, and at the time I was on medical assistance too. And I feel
Okay.
like all of these things played a
Mhm.
factor into how they treated me
Very.
after with my baby. And even before with them, trying to push me to get this C-section, and you're not going through anything, any procedures. I don't know what they are, but like you said, they should, we trust them.
Right.
Mhm.
But that's part of my own prejudice. And then working, as a professional, watching my coworkers and dealing with people myself, I feel like I hold a heavier standard anyway.
Yeah,
I'm like, so
Mhm.
absolutely.
I don't know. I was just doing what I could for myself, but I feel like they should have been doing more. The nurse should have treated me better, and they should have not been taking my baby out of the room when
Mm,
no one was there with me. So
mm,
um I don't know exactly. I didn't like that feeling. Like I'm extremely tired. You giving me this
right.
medicine, and then at my most weak, vulnerable, tired points, you are like trying to take my child from me, or
Mm,
actually are taking my child out of the room. I don't know what's going on fully. That
Mhm.
just that was really that made me feel terrible.
yeah,
Mhm.
Um yeah, I felt like, what's going on? I was so confused, and I was already out of it. My body, I
right.
was exhausted. It's like,
Exactly.
what's going on here? Like,
Yeah.
why you're taking my baby out of the room, and then you coming back explaining something? This is not okay. And then again, that's where your support system is there to, like, kind of check in.
Kind of check in for
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Goldmine, you bring up so many great points. And I love that. What I love about the two of you and why I really wanted you guys here is because you guys have a unique perspective in terms of you already you have a mental health, or excuse me, you have a mental health to share for you, and then actually mental health for you as well, because you guys have both worked in the healthcare field prior to even being moms, right? So, like you kind of just said, Goldmine, you already kind of had a standard as well as your own prejudice with this situation going into it. So here's kind of what I ask you, and this is a little bit off kilter, but I'm curious now. You guys both described what when I said earlier, kind of when I threw out those statistics of the 3 to 5 times more likely and how that gets bigger when we talk about on an international scale. Okay, so when Black women are dying, it's usually either like during the moments of giving birth or those moments or days immediately after, right? How or what was the kind of verbiage or what were the kind of things that you guys used to gain courage to be able to advocate for yourself, right? Because you are the least when you're with the professionals, and that's anybody, right? When you step into a professional environment, the people who are the experts, and then there's you receiving the care. So it can be intimidating, I think, for sometimes women to advocate for themselves, especially mothers. Tell me how a mom, not even just in the maternal partum area, but just in general. How can a mom advocate for themselves? What can they say? What are some things they can do to express themselves without coming across as the angry Black woman? Deshira, why don't you go ahead and start us off with that?
So I think most moms, what we do, especially during our pregnant phase and especially when we're nesting, we love to have conversations with either other pregnant women or women that have already gave birth,
Right.
right? And I think through those conversations, because like for me at 21, having a child, and also like kind of the way that I raised and like my own trauma and stuff, I pretty much was like a little girl having a child,
Right. Yes.
and
Very
that
common dynamic.
came with a lot of shyness, not a lot of confidence, not a lot of I'm very stuck inside of myself, and trying to find that loud voice sometimes is so scary, just because you have no clue how the outside world is going to perceive you at that point.
Exactly.
So working in the medical field and already knowing about how African American people, and especially African American women, when it comes to delivering children, you already have like this stigma in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, when it was time for me to get into the hospital in the bed, they got me changed into my little nightie or whatever. I straight up asked her, I said, "Am I gonna die?" Like, I literally asked the nurse. I just
Yeah.
had to come out and ask her because,
Yeah.
for one, I'm like, well, I can't turn back. This baby's coming here one way or another, right?
Right. Right.
But in that moment, I felt my midwife at the time was not there. She
Okay.
wasn't, so I didn't have, she was, like I said, she was my safe
Your
space in this
support.
process. So I have all these people around me, and I just have to say that it was a different situation for me. It could have been better, but I am so very thankful that I did have nurses that were able to cater to me in a certain capacity that was not the bare minimum, if that makes sense. Because I
Exactly.
hear stories of women that literally die just because of medical negligence. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Preventable things.
So I think just making sure that the people that are around you, you're comfortable, they give you that energy, that it's a safe space. And I
Yeah.
think um I'm just thankful that my experience was what it was, because I didn't have to do too much. Like, I was just trying to watch the process. It's my first child. I don't know
Sure.
what's supposed
Yeah.
to happen.
Exactly.
So I'm just thankful that it was what it was. So, but I was very straight to the point about it, even though I was nervous to assert myself.
Gotcha. Goldmine, what are some things that you can tell a mom who wants to advocate for herself in the maternal process? How can she advocate? What are some tips you have? What did you do? How did you do it?
Um, for me, I feel like again, I went inside myself, and my own mother flashed in my head a lot of times. She's not a very loud or flamboyant. She's very reserved, type of woman. So, but when she needed to speak up, she did. And I always admire that. I might wanted to like even do more, say more as her
Yeah.
child watching the situation. And it's like nothing gets past her. It was just the firm, calm that I always won. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, she didn't miss that. She's
Yeah.
she don't need to blow up. She's like she had this grace, this
Yeah.
reserve, but she's very powerful when she's saying what she's saying. I know you're not getting over on me. So I just that was flashing through my mind. And then I again, like you mentioned, as far as the my own traumas and
Yeah.
healing from things, I felt like just being pregnant, having the baby, it just put out all the triggers. And
Mhm. Mhm.
the things that I didn't speak up for myself, I feel like, oh, I just had this baby. I have to be stronger for her. I
Mhm.
have to speak up now because
Mm.
I'm gonna be weak. To myself, I'm like,
Yeah.
this makes me weak if I don't speak up. I'm not protecting my baby. It was just this thing in me about just being protected, in
Yeah.
spaces from when I wasn't protected.
Mhm.
So that was a thing for me. And then my nurses didn't look like me. They were white, and they were older than me, and so the way that they treated me, it was a confirmation, and it was just for me, for some of these things that I was hoping to get over at
Yeah.
this time. Now I'm actually having a baby. I'm not watching someone else. I'm not
Right.
dealing with
Mhm.
this person. It's me,
Right. It's
you
you.
know.
Right.
So it's like, where's the compassion? I wish that I had me in the room,
Mm.
so
Yeah.
it's like you were saying, noticing other people too, like black, white, anybody. When I'm working with these people, it's like it feels almost like I'm a lifesaver. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Just
Mhm.
coming in and doing what I'm supposed to do, and have the compassion I'm supposed to have, and for the people in the situation. And I didn't get that, and that hurt me too. That hurt me on
Yeah.
so many levels, on a woman to woman level, on a
Yeah.
racial level, on a I don't know. I could assume this woman had children the way that she would talk to me, or
Yeah.
she was checking all the things before I could even take my baby out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, I didn't even have to have my baby in the hospital at all, and I wish I didn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't think like that about all healthcare professionals. But for me to experience that and to be one, it was terrible. So I guess to sum it up, my advice would be do it anyway. It's
Mm,
not the time to overthink or, crawl inside yourself. It is the time to stand up. It's the time to speak out. And it doesn't matter what you look like or that's the wrong train of thought. The thought needs to be on what your need is at the time. You need to care more for you because now you have someone else to care for.
absolutely.
Mhm. Mhm.
Absolutely. What I hear you both saying, very powerful things, even as I go through my own journey, not on a maternal level, I'm not pregnant, but just dealing with healthcare professionals and being intimidated to stand up or ask questions or, say, I don't really like that type of care. Can we try it a different way? What I hear you ladies saying is that you're never really going to feel comfortable or ready to speak up. But
Mhm.
what you should do, um, anyway, is you should still go ahead and you should speak up. And before I go ahead and get to my next question, we do have another guest that is joining us this morning. And I'm really excited to have her on because she has the experience of coming from a deliverance perspective of being a doula. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her on now that she has joined. Good morning, beautiful queen. Thank you so much for
Good
joining us this
morning.
morning. I kind of already was talking you up before I just added you to the stream. So if you could just go ahead and share with our audience your name, where you are currently located, and what it is that you do. And we'll go ahead and just include you into our next question in line.
Okay. Well, good morning. Good morning. My
Grand
name is Edrin
Rising.
Ciali, and I am a mother of three, first and foremost. And then I also am a wellness coach for women and also teach yoga and meditation. You want to come?
Come on with us here. That's right. And as you had said already, kind of in that holistic approach. Hi, handsome. Thanks for joining us. As you come in that kind of holistic approach, you have had the opportunity to also serve as a doula. Is that right?
I wasn't a doula. I
Mhm.
had a doula during my recent birth experience with him. So
Perfect.
I've been sharing more of the education and background and benefits of having a doula, whether you have a partner or whether you don't have a partner, and what having a doula means, and
Okay.
just raising more awareness on people to advocate to legislators and including, you know, that in their insurance
Yeah.
to pay doulas, especially Black doulas, because it is Black Maternal Health Week,
Yeah.
because these healthcare industries have been occupied by other people
Yeah.
who aren't serving us, and we're the ones that are dying at a higher rate.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's kind of the whole point of us wanting to come together today. And we kind of have been, just to kind of catch you up to speed, Edris, we kind of have been going through the birth experience. We talked kind of about the mental shift before when you find out that you're pregnant, as you're pregnant. And these ladies were sharing their experience in terms of delivery and kind of what that looked like for them. Before we move on to the next question, I'm interested to know with your last experience, because you did have a doula. Tell me what was the main difference in your previous birth experiences versus this one where you had that extra support of a doula?
I would say the main difference was having that mental, emotional, and educational support, someone advocating for you. So I had him last year. My other two, I had them 13 and 15 years ago. So
Okay,
2006, 2008, right?
gotcha.
And I had them in the hospital. I just felt like a number that was up to give birth. Like, come
Sure.
in, we're
Yeah.
gonna pop your water, you're gonna have this baby, you're gonna sign these papers, and you're gonna stay for a little bit and you're gonna get out. That was it. There was no connection, there was no real support on understanding me, my baby, my body, none of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with having a doula and giving birth at the birthing center, it felt more sincere.
Mm.
Um, which made the birthing environment way feel better.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that. And I do want to get into before I move on. Can you just tell us real quickly here, What exactly is a doula, and how can a person request one?
A doula is a support person for your pregnancy, labor, and postpartum. They provide educational support on your rights as a human, as a mother when giving birth. They advocate for you when you are unable to speak for yourself, because sometimes, in labor, you don't want to exhaust your energy that you're supposed to use pushing in telling people, no, I don't want that. No, don't touch
Yeah.
me there. Or, I would like to drink this. Or they get stuff for you. If you want pictures, they'll take that for you.
Nice.
um, there's a couple options in getting one. I know my doula, I met her at a minority mental health fair, and she shared that she was a doula. So
Nice.
you can check with your family and your friends. Majority of the time, someone within the circle is a doula.
Right.
Otherwise, there are some organizations that have doulas. So I
Nice.
have met Ruth Birthing Center. They have doulas
Nice.
as well. You can always ask either your where you go to the hospital. You can ask them too. It's really about knowing what these things are and
Right.
asking around on how you can get one.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm glad that we were able to set the context. So, ladies, before we kind of move into the postpartum of things, right? Because we already are kind of there talking about the birth experience. These ladies, right before you joined us, Anders, we were kind of talking about the mental shift in how your partner, the relationship with your partner affects you as a mom mentally, as you are, experiencing your own bouts throughout your trimesters, things like that, right? I have a question to you, ladies. Everybody on the panel. Deshare, we'll start with you. We'll go to Gold Mine, and then we'll end kind of going that L shaped. You guys can't see our screen, but it's in kind of an L shape. Um, so looking back, right? And for you, Anders, you can think about any of your pregnancies with this one. Ladies, looking back on your pregnancy, right? Do you think, for moms out there that are watching, they are pregnant or getting ready to give birth, and they may not be on one accord with their partner, and maybe they have other things going on, right? From a mental health, from a maternal mental health standpoint, looking back, do you think that women who are experiencing that type of stress are better off getting the support from their family and friends around them and excluding the father during that process if that is the point of stress? Or do you feel that that stressful process with the partner is just a sacrifice you have to make because you decided to have a child? Kind of that, okay, this is my bed I laid in and I have to deal with this. What are your thoughts on that? Just share, tell me what you're thinking.
So, like I had mentioned before, my daughter's dad and I weren't together during this process. And so I think the biggest thing that I could say from my learning experience, while, I experienced that journey a lot on my own, it's all about where you're pouring your energy, in my opinion. Because
Wow.
especially when you're younger and there isn't a stable foundation between you and the other person, you get so consumed by work, chasing after this situation, when it's like you're pregnant, you should be worried about, what's happening with your body and how that's going to look for you. I think if I had to do things differently, I would pour more into myself, just because it's like that situation with the parent. It's like that once somebody finds out they're having a baby, yes, it affects both parents, but at the same time, it's usually like, okay, what can we do to move forward? Like, this is what's happening. When
Exactly.
you have two people that are experiencing where you're not on the same page about it, it's like the baby is coming, it's growing. The focus should be on yourself, being healthy and everything like that. I feel like for some people, they don't have a good family,
Right.
support. They don't have those options to be able to turn to other people. I feel like it's all about how you prepare yourself, get your heart ready, get your mind ready. Because at the end of the day, you may not. I had family members that were so upset about my pregnancy, but I didn't associate with that because it made me sad. It's like I am
Exactly.
going to be a mother. Like, that's not going to change. How can you help support me? And sometimes you have to just remove yourself, and literally mentally and emotionally, and it's hard while you're having all these hormones, right?
Yeah.
But to prepare yourself sometimes to be able to handle the situation on your own, and sometimes be your own support and gather support as you go, as you make connections, that
Absolutely.
being okay with yourself sometimes is the option that you have to go.
Wow, great. Goldmine, tell me what you're thinking. What do you think in that stage? Do you deal with it because you decided to have whatever that it is? Do you work it out for the sake of the child and just kind of take that stress as this is part of the game? Or do you recommend fighting through that loneliness so that you can be healthy and mentally stable while you're pregnant? What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like you should always put yourself first in that situation, because putting yourself first is putting your newborn or your child, your the child that you're pregnant with first. Um, all of it starts with the self-care. If you really don't have the self-love and self-care, or even the self-awareness, right, you can't know to separate yourself. Some people wasn't in the practice of doing that
Right,
before,
right,
so like I said, like it just pulled out all of my triggers personally and all of my trauma, and it allowed me an enlightenment, um just by having my baby, to see what I really need to do. Where am I really self-sacrificing? Is that what I should be sacrificing? Where am I pouring my energy, like you said? Um, for some it's easier than others, but for me, I had to do a
Hmm.
lot of internal work,
Hmm.
to come to some of those realizations and make that happen for myself. So I did separate myself.
yeah,
I decided to separate myself, and I would say that for anybody else. I mean, yeah, for everyone else, like,
yeah,
even if it's not the father, even if it's, just toxic family members and
yeah,
friends,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
go where you love, you go where you comforted, even if that's just within, even if that's just with yourself. I can only pour love into me right now. Go somewhere and be alone, and
Yes.
or go outside and go in the public and go do things, but
yes,
don't, I would say, don't allow yourself to fall deeper into a depression if you
right.
was already having those feelings like me early on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Goldmine. I appreciate that. Edoris, as we go ahead and you have the most experience as a mom, right? And so you come from a place of knowledge and understanding, and I love that and that wisdom. Tell me, what are your thoughts? Earlier, the ladies and I talked about kind of how they had to make decisions in terms of my mental health as a mom. It's not being positive with sometimes my partner, sometimes my family, sometimes my friends. In those situations, what do you think that women should do to protect their mental health in that maternal aspect?
Well, I stand by and believe protect your peace by any means necessary.
Yes,
Um, so, with any of those people, your peace as a mother, especially while pregnant, should be a priority. And I learned that mostly after my two older kids. I didn't really, like, yes, I had things with those younger two because I was only 16 when I first got pregnant.
got you.
So I was younger and I did have those things going on. But I've always tried to find a way to, you know, shout out to God first of all, because
Yes.
being pregnant at a young age, you feel like everyone, is against you. You have shamed your family.
Yeah,
People say you're never gonna make anything out of yourself. So yes, those emotions come through, right?
yeah,
Especially
absolutely.
if you're in high school, you already feel like an outcast, right?
Already.
And you,
Hmm.
like she said, even if it has to be just you by yourself, to create that peace, do that.
Right.
Even if it's you by yourself, do that. So during those processes, that's what I would do. I prayed a lot for
Yeah.
me to stay sane. Your spiritual health matters
Yes.
because when you're birthing a child, ultimately that child came from a spirit, and
Exactly.
it's waiting in your stomach and
Hmm.
being created and formed until it's actually touched down to the physical realm
That's right.
and becomes a human here on earth. So
Hmm.
definitely take care of your spirit. Know that it is not a mistake, and just be able to take care of yourself, mentally, physically, emotionally. And that's why I said, if you have unhealthy family members or a partner that's unsupportive, that's where doulas come in place too, to be supportive for you in those instances. They're there to comfort you and support you because your mental, your emotional, your spiritual health matters when you're giving birth, because they're taking all of those emotions within you and birthing it out to your child. And
Exactly.
people don't understand like the huge connection with that, and then wondering why the earth is the way that it is. Like,
Mhm.
we're birthing these babies, you know, sometimes in crazy circumstances. We come from a long line of trauma, right? And if we
Mm-hmm.
haven't healed or processed those things, and now we're having a baby, that baby is harboring onto all of those emotions, all of it from generations, and you're
Yes.
putting them on this land that don't really like us in the first place.
Hmm.
And now, you know, they're gonna have to navigate that on top of the one that you birthed, the
Right.
emotions and stuff you birthed them out through, the circumstances you birthed them out through.
Right.
And it's just by prioritizing your well-being as a mother. That's the
Absolutely.
most thing that I can say is prioritizing your well-being as a mother, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, as a mom, as a woman, during the pregnancy process and postpartum. Like, I just want it to be a village of support, because
Mhm.
not everyone has a family member or a partner that's going to
Right.
support them.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That is so true, and I think that that is the part of mental health when we talk about maternal mental health that is left out. Oftentimes, kind of how we were talking about earlier, ladies, like when you hear about maternal mental health, it's just usually like postpartum, which is a real thing. I'm not downing that aspect because that's real, right? But there's so many other aspects of the maternal mental health piece that happen before you even give birth, and one thing that you mentioned too, I had the opportunity, what was that, so the August of last year, to attend a conference where they talked about trauma in the room, and they talked about the psychologist there. She's on the board for the APA, American Sociology Association, whatever, and she said that when you are pregnant with a child, let's say you're a good mom, you have good genes, the dad has good genes in terms of like no medical problems, whatever, right? And you are angry or you are arguing while you're pregnant, right? That is literally the same as the child goes through the same type of trauma as if they were to be there witnessing you argue, right? That
Mm-hmm.
it starts in the womb. And so I love how you ladies are, all three of you, advocating for, despite how it may feel at the time, you still are advocating for that, protecting your peace, protecting your child, because you're protecting yourself. So I love that. So let's get into a few more questions as we get ready to wrap up in the next 5 minutes or so here. What is the, and to share, we'll go ahead and start with you again this time and kind of take the same order. What is the biggest mental sacrifice? There could be more than one, because I think this is unfair. It's kind of a broad question. What is the biggest mental sacrifice you feel you have had to make as a mother?
So I love this question. So I feel like by me becoming a parent, it's absolutely has magnified how I do my self reflection.
Mm,
It
wow.
absolutely helps me. It has opened the door for me. Like you have children and it helps show you who you don't want to be anymore, right? And
Wow.
who you want to become. That way you can pour into your children.
Right.
And I think when you come from a lot of trauma, it you automatically are a person filled with trauma that's basically trying to raise a child, and it's sometimes that overlaps. Sometimes one takes priority more than the other, and that's normal. That happens. Okay.
Sure.
And I think that while you are becoming a healing woman, because before you were a mother, you were a woman.
Right.
So before, while you're becoming a healing woman, the unfortunate part about being a parent at the same time, you're learning stuff with your child, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yep.
And
Wow.
there's always mental barriers, there's always struggles, there's always, like, for me, I had a static relationship with my mom growing up, so like my maternal, everything that I've downloaded before I became a mother was already instilled for me from my mom's trauma.
From your
So
mom.
I already
Exactly.
had this perspective of what a mother was supposed to look like based off of her doing the best that she could at the time. So when
Right.
I had my daughter, I wasn't super in, like, I was working in behavioral health field, but I wasn't pouring into myself the way that I am now.
Gotcha.
And having her, I was like, I need to see a professional therapist, because I realized how past parenting and new, all of it is a domino effect of people just not getting help. And
Yes.
just knowing every day you have to fight your demons as well as hold yourself to a certain standard as a mother. I think sometimes for some people, for me, it's a daily struggle, something that I
Mm.
battle with every day in regards to the mother that I want to be and what I've been shown and what I've thought and everything, like, and who I am now. And just, it's just it's could be an everyday thing.
Absolutely. Gold mine. Talk to me.
I would say I definitely, first of all, agree with everything that you just said. That was a big step for me, learning to learn with my daughter and stop feeling like I had to know everything first and overloading myself in that type of way. But to answer the question, I feel like my biggest mental sacrifice was letting go of my old self, my old
Mm.
identity, or
Wow.
my old idea of my old judgments on mothers, my old
Wow.
identity and my old
Yes,
judgments
I
on
love
mothers
that.
before I was a mother.
Wow.
I was able to, I am able to, empathize and understand my mother better and have a better connection with her now because
Right.
I
Yes.
see these things and I have these same reactions that she do. Like we
Mm-hmm.
said, these things get passed down as I'm dealing with my own daughter. But the biggest I want to add in there, the biggest benefit that I've gained is my daughter has allowed me to see me, like you said, they're mirrors, to see myself and then to be myself, to be my
Mm.
whole self. I
Wow.
have not I My daughter allowed me to be my whole self. And like I said, I'm an advocate for holistic living. That's
Yeah.
mind, body, and soul. And she allowed me to be,
Wow.
you know, the empress in me, my nurturing self without having to feel tainted or
Yeah.
from all the stuff I've been through or having to feel
Yeah.
like I gotta be so, I gotta live on my masculine side because this happened to me and this and this and this. When, she just allowed me to stay beautiful and allowed me to keep my purity and
Yes.
be my whole self. So that was my biggest gain and my biggest sacrifice was letting go of my old identity.
Absolutely. Thank you for
I
that,
love
Goman. That's
that.
so profound. I appreciate that. It just talk to us. Tell me, in as you think about your journey in motherhood, and I know that you have shared with us that you became a mom at a young age, and thank you for sharing that on this platform because I think that that is also a mental effect as well, right? What do you think? Even looking back then, from your first child to now, um, what would you say has been your biggest mental sacrifice as a mother?
I would say just sometimes the mental aspect is surrendering all that you thought the experience would be like. And
Wow.
like these other two ladies said,
Wow.
forgiving and releasing other people because like we have this idea of what moms should look like and be like
Yeah.
in a perfect world, right?
Mm-hmm.
One that exists without all the trauma.
Right.
um so I would say like sacrificing, just like my experience would be the sometimes it was career, right?
Sure.
Because
Okay.
you want to work, but it's like when you think about the price of childcare and those type of things, right?
Yes.
um how are you able to do that? And also thinking about the time, because time is the most precious commodity there is.
I agree.
And with that, being a parent is like I want to spend time with my kids, but also I don't want to spend time with my kids.
Exactly. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you for saying that because that is so real. And I don't think that moms get allow themselves to be okay with that, that it's okay to need a
Hmm.
break. And sometimes you don't want to be bothered. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead, Missy. I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off. Go ahead.
I'm really heavy on that, and like especially with Jaden's, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be with my kid 24/7. I don't want to be
That's
with my
true.
partner 24/7. I
Right.
don't want to be with my friends 24/7. So as
Exactly.
humans, we require some solitude
Yes.
to continue to be at peace and flow around and be well in these roles that we have. So I
Exactly.
would definitely say sacrificing of time to sit with yourself, sit with your thoughts, sit with your feelings, processing those things, um, to just be a better person. Like she mentioned therapy, right? With Jaden, he was the child that I was able to be in therapy postpartum,
Nice.
um, and during my entire pregnancy. So
Nice.
that was really, really helpful as well. Just having that mental health support, because we have to get back to work, because we have kids to take care of, these other roles, we
Right.
sacrifice ourselves with those roles and
Right.
not taking care of our mental health. We're
Mm-hmm.
thinking about everyone else but our own self. And like during this time, I was able to focus on me, whether I want to, watch a show or read a book
Yeah.
or just be outside in nature or go for a walk. I was able to prioritize my time, without sacrificing myself. So,
Absolutely.
hey, somebody needs to get this kid.
Yeah.
I want to be alone, and I'm thankful for my older two
Yeah.
because Jaden is 13 years apart from my other son.
Got you.
So they're able to be like, okay, can you watch him for an hour while I, be alone? Can it be 30 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever
Right.
it is? Like
Mm-hmm.
people, you just need time alone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest thing that I would say. Time to be with your thoughts,
Yeah.
time to be with your feelings, time to just sit with yourself. Because when you do that, you're able to, present yourself in a better manner.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So we're just gonna wrap up here. I got two more questions for y'all. Okay. Um, my first question is here. Do you think that there is a way a person watching this, whether it's their first child, or their second or fifth child, who knows? Do you think that there is a way to prepare mentally becoming a mother? If you can look back on any of your pregnancies, are there things that you can do to prepare mentally for that next step? My last question is coming right after this. Deshara, what do you think? Are there things you can do to prepare mentally?
I think if I had to speak to my younger self, and this
Yeah.
would go for anybody, um, to really utilize the people that have wisdom, and then also being comfortable enough to seek professional help if it's needed.
Okay.
Um,
Very true.
because this process can be very emotional, and I know everybody's situation is different,
Hmm.
but for the most part, speaking from my experience, like I said, it's somebody coming from trauma. Sometimes we're not always given the right tools on how to handle ourselves the right way. And
Hmm.
I feel like sometimes them OGs in our family that we be asking for advice are stuck in their ways. So sometimes they give you more harmful advice than they do, beneficial. So don't be afraid to seek outside sources. It's not embarrassing. There's nothing wrong with it. And as a community of color, I know that us asking for help is something that isn't comfortable a lot of the time. And it's like there's no shame in going to seek services, that are beneficial to you for the long term.
Thank you
If
so
if
much.
you if you have if you have the option in your community to get it.
If you have that option. I thank you so much. And we are going to have resources here, guys, after the show. I'm going to put a link down. There is a website where you can go on if you're watching this and you are a mother struggling with mental health, or maybe you're not struggling yet, but you think you may. There will be a resource that Black Mental Health Matters has on their platform. Goldmine, tell me, what do you think? If you can look back or even going back or speaking to your younger self, what are some things maybe a mother could do mentally to get prepared for this journey as a mom?
Mentally, well, first I want to say that yes, I'm so glad that you mentioned getting help, seeking the help that you need. Um, Again, that just goes back to the self love and self awareness, like being able to get seeking the help that you need. I would say mentally, I love how you mentioned. I love how she mentioned the relationship with your spirit with God.
Mm,
I would say strengthen that, and that having that alone time to
yeah.
hear, to hear and really to hear yourself and to hear God and to I feel like that's the most powerful relationship that can create a shift for you. So if you
Absolutely.
don't um have a relationship with God, I feel like that is definitely one big thing that will transition the way that you think and the way that you handle the way that you see. It'll
Yeah.
change the way that you think and the way that you see.
Wow. Thank you for that, Gold Mine. Tell me, Idris, what are some things that you think? Am I saying? Let me make sure before I say that it's Idris, right?
Edrins.
Edris. My apologies, Queen. I
Edris.
want to make sure I get that right. Edris. Tell me, what are some things looking back, if you could go back, or tell even your younger self to mentally prepare for this motherhood journey?
I wouldn't go back, honestly. Even though I was 16, I did the best that I could with what I had.
Sure.
So I'm always appreciative of that. And like, even in this moment, I would say, like she said, my faith helped me from the beginning.
Right.
So I know that that seed of faith, grew over time to what is it now.
Absolutely.
So continue to, before your brain was formed, you were a spirit. So take care of spirit,
That's right.
um, and then take care of your mental health. Like, if you don't have people, start by journaling,
Mm,
writing down how you
good.
feel, your thoughts that you have,
Good.
maybe visualizing what motherhood looks like for you, because everyone doesn't have the same idea of motherhood, right?
Absolutely. That's
Someone might
true.
want to be a stay-at-home mom while someone else will want to be a working mom. So
Exactly.
figuring out what that looks like for you, what support looks like for you, getting help for, because we are social people. We're not created to be alone 20 like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
um Figuring out what your support look like, feel like, even if you have to create that community. We're living in a time of social media,
Yes.
and you can definitely create a community from your Facebook
Yes.
friends.
Yes, you can.
um
Yes.
and support. There's a lot of mom support groups. Make sure there's a healthy one, because you ladies, I just want to say, sound like you've been doing the work to heal, to learn, to grow,
Yes.
and to flow that river of love right into your
Yes.
children. So I love all of you here, because you
Yes.
sound amazing.
Thank
We love
Um
you too, Queen.
you. Yes. Love, love, love. Big love.
and then, like, healing as much as you can in that pregnancy process, because you're birthing another seed to be planted on this earth. So healing as much trauma as you can, you know, visualizing or understanding the birthing stages, right? Because a lot of times we're uneducated on the different stages,
Yes.
and understanding the different stages, understanding your options in that, and then mentally, like for me, with Jaden's, I did a lot of meditation. I did a lot
Mm,
of breath work.
yes.
The
Breathing.
environment in which I gave birth to him, the music was good. So just
Wow.
setting the stage of what you want to bring life into. So the environment matters,
Absolutely.
because the people around the location you are, it can cause you stress or it can bring you peace. So being
Absolutely.
mindful of your environment as well.
Absolutely. Edris, thank you so much. You brought up something that I think is so profound. I'm going to come with my last question. I just have to say this because I think that even with my own journey, pregnancy and things like that, like you get caught up in this mind of like sometimes comparing yourself to other moms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like having this standard of what like a mom is or what it should be. And I think that when you said thinking about as you begin that journey, thinking about what your version of motherhood is, what you envision
Mm-hmm.
motherhood to be, right? I think that is a key piece. I thank you for that. So here's my last question for you ladies as we get right ready to wrap up on this hour mark here. And I thank you so much for being here. This is a powerful conversation. Right now, as you guys know, that this platform, this is not my main platform. I'm a guest host here, right? And this platform goes, they are like international, right? And right now there is a woman watching this and she is struggling with determining which category she falls into. If she is the mom that maybe needs help and is not pouring enough, maybe she's pouring too much. Maybe tell me, ladies, what are two signs, either your own journey or that you've seen as you have healed?
Bless
Give
you.
me two signs or two symptoms that a mom may have that are indicators that she may need to seek help? What are two things that maybe you've seen or went through in your own motherhood journey where you knew, okay, this is not normal. I should probably seek help for maternal mental health. Just share, take it away for us.
I would say one of the first things to pay attention to is maybe like the disassociation that you have with your child.
Okay.
Now we know that postpartum can happen at different stages, and sometimes some women don't get that maternal instinct right away after they have their child. But if you notice that, you know, your temperament or like your emotions is not steady,
Yeah.
or the way that you feel disconnected from your child, if that's a frequent feeling, it's not that you're being a bad mom. It's just there's something that has to be sorted out with
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
I would say that is something that should maybe pay attention to. And then also kind of abide the environments that you provide your child
Mm.
with. So like, are they safe environments? Is it what's happening around your child? Like, do you have the compassion inside of you to keep your child in mind when you're, you know, you're creating those safe spaces for your child? And if you like kind of are still living as if you don't, a child doesn't exist, and you don't again have that maternal instinct to make that situation better, maybe it's time to phase them out.
Thank you so much, Tashira. I appreciate that. Goldmine, tell me, give me two things that a mother watching this can maybe say, okay, if I'm experiencing these two things often, maybe I should go and speak to somebody or seek out some help. Tell me.
Um, I think like the sheriff mentioned the temperament of
Okay.
emotions. Like if you feel like you're going from extremes from one emotion to another, or just even on one end, just of extreme of
Yeah.
any emotion, then I would definitely say you should probably look for, you know, a second opinion on what's going on. Um, Another one would be um, I like what she said about the disconnection.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I want to say if looking at how you are looking at things.
Yeah.
Um, is this your view? I mean,
Mm.
is this your view, or is this one of the views of what you think is what you think you should be viewing this like? I'm sorry if
Mm.
I'm like
No,
not explaining
no,
this
no,
right.
no. That is
Um,
powerful.
does this is this in alignment? What you're doing, your response is your response to this situation, or how you are showing up in this situation. Is it in alignment with your vision of how you want to be as a mother?
Right. Or is it this idea that you have that you're trying to live through and trying to build
Right.
because of
Right,
I
like is
love
it authentic and genuine? Like, are you
Yes.
feeling that?
Or
that.
even if it is this something handed down, because a lot of the handed
Mm.
down stuff is unconscious. We just do it
Mhm.
like because you know my mama did that, but that's not
Wow.
exactly what I'm trying to do. So boom, I got to be more
Right.
mindful. I need to be be more mindful. Period.
Mhm.
I love that how you mentioned like how sometimes the things that may have been passed down, because even our OGs maybe weren't taught the right things, right? And they're passing them down. And it's like, is this what I know to be true, or am I just doing it because this is what the only thing I know? I love that.
Right.
I love that.
Mhm.
Tell me, Edric.
Um, exactly the same thing what these ladies said. Definitely, you know, being mindful of what was handed down to you.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, you know, we are, you know, cycle breakers, especially in this time of life.
Yes,
So
I
that
agree.
awareness of what that looks like for you, because previously a lot of moms were just focused on being so strong,
Yes.
and
Yep.
I'm not so strong all the time, and it's okay to not be okay. And in
Yes.
those circumstances when you don't feel okay, what do you feel like, right?
Right.
um so when it comes to understanding that, one, it's okay to not be okay, especially after you have had a child, because
I love that.
your hormones are everywhere, point blank
Literally,
period.
on a scientific level, you are not the same.
Yes, on a
Yes.
scientific level, it's
Yeah.
called metrosense. That is what's
Yes.
the scientific term for it.
Yes.
Once you are pregnant or have given birth, your
Yep.
body automatically changes
There's a
biologically.
change. Mm-hmm.
So just being aware of that, so you can know that there's nothing wrong with you. Your body is doing what your body is doing, supposed to be doing.
Yes.
So I would say be mindful of your thoughts, be mindful of your feelings, and knowing it's okay to not be okay, and finding that support that can help you.
Absolutely. Because it is there in all communities. And I am just so thankful, and I am so blessed to have the opportunity to interview you ladies on this wonderful, amazing platform. I support what they do here at Black Mental Health Matters, and I support all of you. And I'm thankful that all of you have had the courage to come and serve today in terms of telling your story and sharing everything that you've been through. At least in terms of maternal mental health, I thank you. Are there, and I'll start with you to share before we go ahead and get ready to before we get ready to wrap up this interview, I want to make sure that I give you all an opportunity to shout out your businesses, or if you have things that are in place, social media. To share, we can go ahead and start with you. In terms of getting in contact with you or knowing more about you, what can they do?
Yeah, so just in like a general aspect, like I said, I am a clinic manager at a behavioral health clinic. And so I'm all for getting professional help wherever you can seek mental health services. My commute or the place that I work at is only a Minnesota based organization.
Okay.
So if you live in Minnesota, look up, some mental health resources. But no, if you have it in your community, I am all about just going to seek professional help. There are websites, there's are tools that can help you look for providers of color,
Yeah.
people that deal with, LGBTQ stuff, whatever, is your thing. You can get that. And I would say, I don't know if you're going to put social media handles or
Yeah.
anything like that. If anybody needs help seeking mental health resources or not sure which avenue to go or how to get things started or even too scared to get that push, I'm open to having conversations about that.
Perfect. Can you shout out your social media handle? I'm gonna put it in the description, but just could you shout it out for those who are watching?
Yeah, you can go ahead and on Facebook, it's just Deshara Peck on Facebook. Go ahead and send me a message and I'll go ahead and respond to people if people are interested.
Thank you so much. Gold Mine, tell us, how can we get know more about you or your business?
You can find me on at www.loveyours-holisticwellness.com, holistic with a W. And you can look sometime maybe next week, and I'll have some products up and maybe some services as well for you to tap into. Um, Otherwise, I'm on Facebook and IG as Gold Mine and Gold Mine Delight.
Perfect. And those of you who are watching, if you weren't able to write her website down, don't worry. It is going to be in the description after this episode. Edris, can you tell us, please, how can they know more about you or get more in tune with your business?
Yeah, so my business is Faith in Action, and get to know more about what Faith in Action is. Faith is more than prayer. It's taking action steps to healing,
Yes.
wholeness, and wellness. That's what
Yes.
Faith in Action is. It's taking action towards your journey,
Mhm.
both personal wellness and collective wellness.
Absolutely.
And I have a website. It is www.faithinaction.co. Also, you can follow us on social media, which is Faith in Action Co.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And like I said, don't worry. We are going to put all of these, I'm going to put all of these in the chat, you guys, shortly after this episode. So make sure, those of you who are viewing, don't just go away right away once we end the broadcast, because I'm going to be putting all of these in the comments here. Listen, you guys could have been anywhere in the world, but you decided to be here with us here. Black Mental Health Matters, coming at you every week, okay, with important topics that affect Black mental health. Okay, make sure you stay and keep it locked. Ladies, thank you again. I am
Thank
honored.
you.
It
Thank
was my
you.
pleasure to
Thank
serve.
you.
I am so overwhelmed with the information and the love that you all have shared with us this morning here, morning for us at least. We're going to go ahead and end the broadcast now, but don't forget, you guys, to stay tuned, because we are going to be putting all of their resources in the comments here. And don't forget, keep us locked and catch us next week. Black Mental Health Matters. Thank you.
Thank you.